kemudian ada Kak Imelda, and then the other is Kak Mahrita Dwi Haryati. Halo, selamat sore. Kemudian ada Kak Maria, Kak Marlon Jackson, Kak Nurul, Kak Resiana, Kak Siti Sania, Kak Wulan. Okay, for the participant, please rename your Zoom name into name underscore your institution so we can um, identify the participant. And we will begin this session in okay, we will start the session around 8 minutes. Is it okay for you, Mas Patria, Mrs. Rita, and Mas John?
Maybe 5:05.
Oh, okay.
My voice is okay, right? I'm just trying to.
Clear and loud.
Okay. Thanks, Sophia.
Okay, since it's already 5 past 5, so we will begin this session. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good evening from Indonesia and good morning to our panelists and team joining from Brazil. We warmly welcome you to Philanthropy Learning Forum, the 74th Philanthropy Learning Forum that have a title When Training is Not Enough, The Journey Towards Systemic Change in Education, a Lesson from Brazil. Yep, my name is Sofial Alam and you can call me Sofial and I'll be your host for today's session. I'm part of the secretariat team of the Indonesia Philanthropy Association or Perhimpunan Filantropi Indonesia. As you know, the Philanthropy Learning Forum is one of the Filantropi Indonesia's initiative that aims to facilitate learning and knowledge sharing among philanthropic actors across various sectors and themes. And the today's session is a collaboration between Perhimpunan Filantropi Indonesia, Centroleman, Inspirasi Foundation, Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul, and STIR Education. And we will focusing on how systemic approaches can transform educational leadership beyond traditional training programs. Okay, in this 1 hour session, we will have several agendas, including the first one is welcoming remarks from Filantropi Indonesia, and the second one is an interactive discussion featuring inspiring speakers from Brazil and, of course, from Indonesia, from our home country. Okay, and we hope that this session provides an opportunity for everyone to share insights, ask questions, and explore ways to strengthen systemic change in education. Okay, maybe let's just start earlier. And to begin our agenda, I would like to invite Mrs. Ika Setiawati Sutejo, Program and Partnership Coordinator of Filantropi Indonesia, to deliver her welcoming remarks. You ready?
Yeah,
Mrs. Ika, the time and screen is yours.
thank you, Sophia. Good evening, everyone, and good morning to Rita, joining from Brazil. I hope you have already your breakfast this morning. I'm really happy to welcome you all to this 74th Philanthropy Learning Forum with the theme When Training is Not Enough, the journey towards systemic change in education, a lesson from Brazil. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a big appreciation to our partners, Inspirasi Foundation, for making this session possible. We also want to express our gratitude to Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul, YBPU, and State Education for their continued collaboration and support in strengthening educational leadership initiative here in Indonesia. And of course, a special thank you to Central Leman for sharing their inspiring experience later and a journey from Brazil in building systemic educational change. We are honored to have you us today. We all know that improving education is not just about giving more training to teachers or principals. While those efforts are valuable, many are still done separately and do not always create lasting change. What we really need is a systemic approach, one that connects policy, mentoring, leadership, development, and collaboration across sector. That is why today's discussion is very important. We will hear how Central Leman in Brazil has supported systemic leadership reforms and how their journey can inspire the similar progress in Indonesia. I hope today's session gives us fresh ideas, inspiration, and new opportunities to work together toward better and more sustainable education for all. Thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, even though it's already uh, weekend. Tomorrow, I hope we are still have a lot of spirit today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Ika, for your warm and insightful opening. Yeah. Okay. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering the main part of today's event, the interactive discussion, of course. And to guide our discussion, allow me to introduce our moderator, Mr. Patria Pratama, Executive Director of Inspirasi Foundation. Hello. Okay, and today we also honored to have two distinguished panelists joining us. The first one is Mrs. Rita Jobim, Training and Development Program Manager at Central Leman, Brazil, and Mr. Yoni Nurdiansyah, Executive Director of Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul from Indonesia. And together they will explore the journey toward systemic change in education and share valuable lessons learned from Brazil and Indonesia. To Mr. Patria Pratama, may start the session. The time and screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Okay, so good day, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore and good morning if you are in Brazil. Again, welcome to the Philanthropy Learning Forum, the 74th, I was told. So thank you for joining us. Especially at this time of the week, right? So late of the day in Indonesia and so early in the morning if you are in Brazil. I know it's one of the tough time actually. So again, my name is Patria Pratama and the Executive Director of Inspirasi Foundation. And I'll take the honor of moderating today's session. So let's begin, yeah? Um, I'll start with a situation where I think many of us in this room, right, in a lot of the people who are participating in this discussion, right, who work in education, and we all know the pattern all too well, a little too well sometimes, right? We design great training programs for teachers, for principals, and then they feel inspired, the results improve, right? And then a few years later or a few months later, everything fades, right? So today's conversation is about that very challenge, right? How do we move from short-term improvement to long-term and rather systemic change, right? So a little bit of Inspirasi Foundation. So before we get going to the discussion, right? Just to give you some context. So our nonprofit is actually focusing on school leadership, right? Because we believe that a simple notion, strong principles make strong schools, right? Basically, we do three main things: training, research, and policy advocacy, right? So over the past years, we've actually worked with a lot of schools across Indonesia, and we're proud to be part of the Global School Leaders Network, or the GSL. Actually, it's the same global community that Rita Centroleman in Brazil also belongs to, right? So let me share a little bit of story before I hand this over to Rita, right? This story actually becomes the trigger of our discussion when I first initiated to the PFE to have this discussion, right? So one of our leadership program in Inspirasi ran for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, right? It combined workshops, coaching, school-based projects, everything within the realm of best practice within training, right? And it was indeed a best practice because it worked, right? Principles improved, teachers' practice strengthened, and most importantly, student numeracy and literacy went up, right? And then after the program ends, the Karawang local government, the district government that we are working with, even adopted the model with its own budget, its own program, right? They even allocated up to until 400 million rupiah within the two budget year, right? However, a few years later, priorities shifted, right? Programs changed. Principles themselves rotated, redeployed, and eventually, sadly, the program itself stopped, right? It made us realize maybe the real issue is not necessarily the training quality, but whether the system can actually sustain the good practice over time, right? So here's the question that I'd like everyone's pondering today, right? How can we design approach that strengthens school leadership systemically, not just through a one-off programs, however good that is? And what can we learn from countries like Brazil, for example, where Centro Aleman has been experimenting in taking the systemic approach? And STIR program from the one that Yoni is leading at the moment, right? What's the learning that they have been also enduring in the past few years, right? So let's just begin, right? The first, I'm gonna introduce just really quickly Rita, although probably you will introduce a lot better about Centro Aleman, right? Rita Jobim is from Centro Aleman, right? Which, as I said, like Inspirasi is part of the Global School Leaders Network. Rita will share how Brazil's systemic reforms and Centro Aleman's part in it have evolved, right? And then after Rita, we'll have an opportunity to hear from Yoni, right? Now Executive Director of Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul, or YBPU, who actually himself I'm proud to say that you used to work actually for us with Inspirasi. So now Yoni lead the STIR program in YBPU, which also takes a systemic approach, working with government partners to make teachers and leader development sustainable over time. So it will be really interesting to see the both experience, right? So with that in mind, I think let's just begin. Rita, good morning. I hope you're already acclimated with the time. So let's just begin with you. I believe you might have a slide to share. So
Yes.
the floor is yours, and then we'll move to Yoni. Go ahead, Rita. The
Thank
floor is
you.
yours.
Thank you very much, Patria. And I want to start thanking Filantropi and Inspirasi for this invitation. I'm really glad to be here, and I really value these opportunities of learning from each other, exchanging our experience. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for you all. I know you're on your way to your weekend. But I'm glad that you could find some time to be with us and discuss this important issue. So I'm just gonna go and share my screen. Let me just share it here so that we can, I'll try to keep within my time slot. So let's see. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how we changed the way we work here at Central Lemon to, as Patria and Ika already said, have this more systemic approach. So I just wanted to warm up a little bit, and also I know that you're probably going home right now, and maybe it's hard, but if you could just write down there on the chat, what are you looking forward to in the immediate future? I know you're going for your weekend. I'm looking forward in my immediate future for my breakfast. I still haven't had my breakfast. I just had a cup of coffee, but I wanted to also share with you this picture of a typical Brazilian breakfast. So just bread and butter and scrambled eggs. That's what we normally have. I know that we have some words in common, I'm told. For example, I wrote it down, queijo. You say queijo for cheese?
Keju. Yeah,
Keju.
Keju. Yeah.
Keju. So keju, that's also something we normally have for breakfast, for example.
Nice.
But I want to know what you guys, as you are joining us here, what are you looking forward to right now in the immediate future? If you can just write it down a little bit. Because this is, of course, just an informal question for us to warm up, but it's also a way to get us thinking about what we want. I'm going to talk about what we want, not in the immediate future, but in the long term. So I thought we could start with the immediate future and then move our vision to a bit beyond that. So I'll move forward here and just tell you what I'm going to cover today. I'm going to talk a little bit very fast about what is Central Lemon, what we initially did, what drove us to change, what our new model is based on, and then what is our new model, and then talk about risks and some highlights that we already have. In this picture, you can see our team together planning, and what I'm going to tell you here is, of course, the effort of a very committed team. So I just wanted to acknowledge them as well. Central Lemon is an independent and non-partisan organization, and as Patria said, we are in a global position in the sense that we work also not only in Brazil, but with some countries in the global south as well. And we're part of GSL, so it's great to be in touch with other organizations that have the same purpose, the same goal as us. And we have this, from the beginning, two very important things in mind. One is that we wanted to help basic education in Brazil, but with a big focus on equity. So that was always from the start a very important value for us. And that we wanted to do this through developing competent leaders, right? So this idea that leadership, especially school leadership, is something critical for quality of education. So we started operating in 2022 with this model here, which had two main objectives, right? We worked with these two kind of publics. So the school leaders themselves, starting from the bottom here. So we had school leaders in a learning journey with us in order to develop their commitment, their capacity. So we wanted to work with them in shifting mindsets regarding their own, how they saw themselves and their own importance in the educational system and for the results of the children. We wanted to work with them in the systemic vision and, of course, in their pedagogical practices as well. So how would they oversee what teachers are doing, classes, how would they manage the whole school? Always with equity in mind and this very evidence-based approach. But besides working with the school leaders, we also worked from the beginning with the technicians in the departments of education, especially the ones that were visiting schools and supporting the school leaders. So we also wanted to help them qualify their approach and their support to the school leaders. And we had the Secretary of Education, of course, he or her wouldn't take part in all the program, but we would have some contact with him or her as well. And we also had this approach, many meetings with the Secretary of Education in an agile approach to help them identify priorities, and we would help them work with that in a systemic way. That was the hope. And we organized this in 2 years, 360 hours. So it was a very large program, right? Very dense. And we combined in-person and remote activities. And we started, as I said, in 2022. We had 2 cohorts and we reached 64 different territories in Brazil, different municipalities, around 3,000 participants. So it started large, but if you know that in Brazil we have 5,500 municipalities, 64 is a very small part of that, right? And well, we had some successes, as Patria said, like your story, Patria, we saw good results from the beginning. We had the challenge of engagement because of the large amount of hours, right? So it was a bit hard. Some people said to us, we're not able to keep up with all this, during 2 years. But most of them did. And the ones who did, they were very satisfied by the program. We saw impact. We did a study 2 years after, and we saw that they kept, what we said, what we worked together was still there. But we had some things driving us to change. First thing is that we saw how critical the political leadership commitment was. So in these 64 municipalities, we had very different rates of engagement. In the ones where the secretary was really committed, the Secretary of Education, that made a huge difference. So all the school leaders and the technicians would be as well engaged and committed to the program. Whereas in the municipalities where the Secretary of Education wasn't so engaged, we saw the rates of engagement, participation go really low. So we said the political leadership is critical, right? As Patria also mentioned, we had this great risk of losing the program results after some time because leaders change positions, right? They retire, they are moved to other, and the new leaders, new school leaders that come in, they haven't gone through the program. So our expectation was that the municipalities, the secretaries of education would be able to replicate the program. We shared with them all our materials, right? But the truth was that they didn't know how to do it. They were not prepared. They didn't have the resources to autonomously replicate the program. On the side, we started receiving some requests from them to support them in structuring selection policies for the school leaders. And that's important to tell you that in Brazil, we had this new national policy. The funding for education would be distributed, a part of it would be distributed to municipalities who had selection processes for school leaders with technical criteria, because here it's very, I guess it's the same there, a big tradition to just appoint politically. So the secretaries of education would appoint as school leaders people that they understand their friends or their political parties appoint, and of course that's not good. So to induce a more technical selection process, the national government attached this criteria to part of the funding. So this drove municipalities to want to improve their selection process for school leaders, and they wanted help to do that. And also we had this desire to scale more, even though we started big, but Brazil is a very large country, and we saw that we wouldn't be able to reach the 5,500 municipalities directly. But if we worked with leaders in a more strategic position, and then even if they move from one position to another, they're still in a very, they can have influence over many political decisions, and it's very strategic to work with them. So this drove us to change, and we wanted to have this more systemic and political approach as well. So we, of course, we were already based on many theories and studies about school leadership, and we went back to Weinstein. I don't know if you know him, Jose Weinstein. He's from Chile, and he's one of the lead academics and professors who works on school leadership. And he has this very interesting framework to talk about systemic school leadership policies. So policies that can strengthen the position of the school leaders. And he states that the first thing that you need to have is a clear framework stating what are the functions, what are the responsibilities that the school leader needs to have, because it's not clear for everyone. What is the role of the school leader? It varies, right? So in many places, the school leaders are just managing the daily school life. And so how can the school leader really embrace this pedagogical leadership that he or her needs to have, right? So to have this clearly stated and as a common vision for each educational system, what are the responsibilities? What is the standards that we want to hold the school leaders to, right? So this is very important, this framework. And this framework will then, Weinstein argues that this needs to be the base, the foundation for all the other policies. So the selection process, a certification process for those who are already in place, right? For the school leaders already in place. And how they progress in their career. All the criteria for that needs to be aligned with what's in the school leadership framework. Also, all the continuous professional development and the induction for the ones who are just arriving at this position, this needs to be designed also aligned with the framework. And the working conditions and the school support that they receive from the Department of Education also needs to be. So all of this being aligned, it's very important as the core to a good and effective school leadership system, right? But it still needs more things to happen in the systemic sense. First, this needs to be institutionalized as public policy so that it's not an initiative that will end after some years. It needs to be formalized, and it needs to be coherent with the other policies that the Department of Education have in place. So for example, how you select and train teachers needs to be aligned with that. How your curriculum, your assessment strategy. So the whole system is aligned, right? But in order to do this system alignment, you need to have good institutional capacity, and you need to have effective implementation. So all the processes within the Department of Education and the network, right, the system, needs to be effective, and it's not easy to do, right? So it's a very high-level approach here. To do this in an effective way, you need evidence, you need specialized knowledge, so you need research and monitoring and evaluation, and you need to know how to read data and to act on it. And that's also something that we know it's not so strong in many educational systems. And lastly, you need to have social recognition of the importance of the school leaders, and this needs to be a priority, right? So you need to have also some public opinion pushing for this. So this is Weinstein's vision for the school leadership system, and how can we approach this in a more systemic way. We studied that a lot, and we also studied from Sobral. So I'm going to tell you very quickly. Sobral is a municipality in the northeast of Brazil. It's a very poor municipality, and it's around 200,000 inhabitants. So it's not a big city. It's not the smallest, but it's a medium to small city in Brazil. A poor city in a very poor region, in a poor state. And it had less than 50% of its children learning to read and write at the right age, right before the years 2000. They invested a lot in education by the end of the 90s, beginning of the years 2000, reformed schools, redesigned a little bit where schools were, improved infrastructure, invested a lot of money, and the schools were beautiful, and the population was happy, and the mayor was happy. And then they assessed again after a few years, how were children doing, and still less than 50% knew how to read and write at the right age. And then the mayor did a very brave thing, which was to publicly say, we are not doing our work well. First, he asked the parents, what do you think of the schools in Sobral? And they said, oh, it's great, they're beautiful, we love, kids go to school, they have their meals there, it's working fine. And he said, I'm sorry to say, it's not working fine. They are not learning what they should. So he was very brave to say that, and he managed to build this public understanding and drive towards what is important, right? So they had this very clear goal to ensure that all children are literate at the right age and to guarantee learning with equity. So they stated this, and this became like a vision for the whole city. And of course, they did many things to get to that goal, but one of the most important pillars was strengthening school management. So this was very critical. And it has been some years now, it was very fast. In 4 years, they were already the top city in terms of literacy rates in Brazil, and they stay there. So it's been more than 20 years now. They're either the first or the second ranking municipality in terms of literacy rates. And when we look closer to their strategies in terms of school leadership, what they did was a very clear vision that principals are pedagogical leaders, so that's very strong there. They have a very good selection process based on technical criteria. So it's a technical and attitudinal criteria. So they have a process with many different stages, and the candidates really apply and are very well selected. Then they have a continuous professional development, very specific, very practice-oriented, and they have ongoing monitoring and support. They have a good network of pedagogical and administrative, that's a hard word for me, supervisors. Actually, they work together and they visit schools regularly. They have a very clear routine of visiting schools. What do they want to observe when they visit schools? How do they talk to the school leaders about it in a very supportive way and not in a kind of supervision and just checking, you know? And this supports, these visits, they are opportunities of in-service training. So it develops capacity, it develops competences of the school leadership, and it makes them feel like partners to the education department. So they don't feel just that they're being, supervised, but supported, really. They also promoted more autonomy. So schools now have, for example, part of the money directly for them to administrate. So they can decide what they want to do with it. But of course, they are held accountable for the results, right? and they have school awards and they have lots of recognition, and this is a public thing, you know, if you visit Sobral, it's very impressive how the whole population knows, and they are very proud to be one of the best municipalities in Brazil in terms of education. So that was very inspiring. And when we boil it down, what we see is that in Sobral, the political leaders really prioritized education and gave real importance to school leadership, right? And then they have in place the Secretary of Education, the leaders in the educational system, enabling this with technical leaders to ensure that it happens, and school leaders capable of delivering it in schools, right? So the importance of the political commitment and this obsession with the learning of every student and effective capacity, of course. So I think this model from Sobral was also something very important for us. And we adjusted our program. So you remember we only had the school leaders directly as participants and some people from the middle tier there from the Secretaries of Education. Now we start with the political leaders. So we involve mayors, which we didn't work with before, right? So we started working with the mayors and the Secretaries of Education in a very intentional way to help them really understand why it is important to prioritize education, what to prioritize, and what decisions are critical that you really need to make. And there are risks involved, right, when you make these decisions, but we want to support them in making these decisions based on evidence and with arguments that they can use to support those decisions. Then we work with the middle tier, with the secretaries and the high-level leaders within the departments of education, so that we can improve institutional capacity. So we work with them in a very pragmatical approach. We have some online sessions where we can share some learnings and they can cross-share between each other. But we have many meetings with each secretary so that we really make a diagnosis of their capacities. We understand with them what are their priorities. And of course, we induce a little bit so that these priorities include school leadership. And then we help them design and implement good school leadership policies. And then we work with so that's actually how we work with school leaders now. We don't work directly with them anymore. And I personally, I was a bit resistant, I'll tell you, because it's great to work with school leaders, right? You get a sense of, you know, what's actually happening in schools. I loved working directly with school leaders. And I was like, oh, it's going to be a pity. We're going to be further away from the schools. But actually, we are having a more sustainable approach and a more effective approach because we now are giving them the working conditions that they need to have. So they have a clear vision of their role, they are selected well, they are prepared well. So we're just starting this, okay? So as Patria said, this is what we've done from the beginning of the year. So I'm telling you something that's happening right now, okay? But we are seeing that this is working. So I'm very confident now. It's hard to change. I personally felt it was very hard to change because what we did worked and we had good feedback from the school leaders. But this is, I'm sure, more sustainable and more effective. So what we do now is we have still the learning journeys, but not directly to the school leaders anymore. So we involve the middle tier, basically, and the political leaders in this path of professional and personal development as well, with the systemic approach, right, the systemic vision. We also have immersion, so we take them to Sobral, for example, for them to see what they do, and to other places as well. And these immersions, we also have opportunities for like partners from the Global South to go there, or from NGOs and other people from the educational ecosystem. So it's also important to get this vision spread out, right? We are working a lot now in improving reference materials and including AI on that so that we can scale more. And we have protocols to help them design the school leadership policies. So what is a good school leadership framework. We have an AI, for example, for that, where they can input their framework and the AI will give them feedback. Your framework is not considering this, maybe you should try that. So it's a good way to qualify their documents, their policies. We have protocols. We always believe that these policies need to be co-created within the system. So you need to do this listening to the school leaders, to the teachers, to the students. So our protocols always include that. We have researches, studies, practices, repositories, so big materials, important materials for them to rely on. And we also are starting now a coalition, a national coalition focused on school leadership, so that we can try to, in a national approach as well, strengthen induction for strong school leadership policies. So we work with the Ministry of Education and other public institutions so that this is not only with each municipality, but also from the national perspective. So it's we come from both sides, let's say like that. I'm reaching the end, Patria, but just let me know if it's okay in terms of time. I just wanted to share with you some risks. So Patria asked me to be very open and frank because it's not easy to change, right? And we are seeing some risks that we anticipated, and I think we prepared well to mitigate them, but of course there are challenges. So first is the participants' time constraints, right? Because we know this the mayors, the secretaries of education, and even the high leadership of the Secretary of Education, they're very busy people, right? Of course, school leaders are also very busy people. They have lots to do. But working with the mayor and the Secretary of Education, it's even harder to get their attention, to get their time. So we reduced the expected time. So instead of 360 hours, we now have like 30 hours for the mayors, around 30 hours. We have like 60 hours for the middle tier and around 80 hours for the ones who are actually designing the school leadership policies. So they're shorter. It still lasts 2 years. We'll still be with the municipality for 2 years so that we can ensure this is done, with all the right steps and sustainably. But the time we demand from them is much shorter. Of course, we have reduced our control over implementation. So they are designing for example, their training program, their professional development policy, and they will implement this. And we cannot control how good it is, right? The quality of it. We can try to influence, and we're designing, for example, and many have asked us to do this. Remember our material from the first program, 360 hours. They said this is too big. How can we prioritize content here? So we are designing this kind of model program that they can adapt and use themselves in a very protocoled way. I don't know if you have this word, but it's a very straightforward protocol of how to put in place this training program for school leaders. For example, this is one example of what we're trying to do to mitigate this. Of course, there's the risk of political change because, mayors come and go in Brazil. Many of them, have different issues. Some are arrested for corruption, and then we have to start over again. So that's something that we working with the middle tier also gives us a little bit more of stability, because even if the mayor or the secretary change, the middle tier usually stays, right? So that's why we didn't want to work only with the political leaders. Sorry, I'm just looking now at the chat to get the last comments. We have this challenge of how to scale, but also customize, because municipalities are so different, right? So we have São Paulo, which is a huge city, millions of inhabitants, and we have smaller. So we try to cluster these municipalities according to size, complexity, and to have a very personalized approach, but also have systemic solutions that work for everyone. So it's a challenge, but we're working on that. We have some resistance to NGOs working in the public sector in such a systemic way. So that's something that we're always very paying attention to, and we've decided to not promote so much the name Centro Lehman. So it's something that the secretaries should, and the municipalities should have the ownership of. It's their programs, it's their policies. So you don't need to say that this is in partnership with Centro Lehman. You just go and do it. We are on the background helping you, but you don't need to say that to everyone if you don't want to. It's not that we're hiding. It's just that we're not taking the front view here, the line here. So, and of course there are some others doing similar things. So we need to be very articulate in this system also of who's helping the public sector work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the big risks.
Yeah. Perhaps some last points, Rita.
Yes, that's the last slide, I think. Okay. I'm not going to talk about all of these then. These are just some examples that we're seeing some successes. For example, in São Paulo, they are making a huge effort to improve system coherence. They're bringing together the regional leaders and the school leaders as well. We have school leadership frameworks being already published in many municipalities and also some states that we partner with. So we had the first school leadership framework in the North region of Brazil, in the Amazon region, and it was very symbolic and it's a great potential of changing things in the region. This picture is of mayors from the 30 largest cities in Brazil that we brought together to really become ambassadors of education. So it's a political and systemic change, I think, that we're starting here. And I'm being a bit ambitious, I know, as I say this, but I'm very confident in that. And I just wanted to finish with our vision. We started talking, and I thank you for writing there on the chat some of the things you look forward to. We talked about the immediate future, but now I wanted to share our vision for the long term. Is that all the systemic strengthening of school leaders will really help us get to this vision of having every children in Brazil learning to read and write and develop in every dimension in a very holistic approach by 2031. So that's our vision, and I'm happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Wow, fascinating. Thank you so much, Rita. One of the happy part of having someone from Brazil and other global south is that how happy it is to see that some of the challenges are so similar in terms of like, uh how difficult the challenge is, but then also that there are progresses that still can be made, and knowing that the similarities makes us, a lot more confident that we too can do something about it, because sometimes when you're when you're comparing to, the much more developed countries, then you feel like, because they're like so much, heavily resourced, so we can never reach that. But I think just listening to what Sobral experienced, I think that was really good to be. I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and I'm also mindful that just a heads up to everyone here, we might have over time. I know the learning session is supposed to be an hour, but I think I'm open, hopefully not too long, but like I think it's expected to last a little over than that. Hopefully not too much. So yeah. Thanks, Rita. We'll get back to you now. Equally important is actually the next speaker, right? From Pak Yoni Nurdiansyah, who now leads STIR program at Yayasan Bakti Barito, Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul. So I think just a quick heads up, what fascinating about Yoni's work in STIR is that it doesn't just train teachers and principals, right? But they also work with the system itself. which is really different to most, I think I would say, in general here, training organizations in Indonesia, right? They partner with governments to put in place the motivation, peer learning, and leadership practice for everyday learning, but using the government system, which is really, really important for all of us to learn from. So, yeah, Yoni, over to you. Happy to see you back, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for having me. It's really honored to be here to share our journey at the WBPU in partnership with the STAR Education. Uh, Compared to the Brazil, we are actually on the first phase, early phase, even compared to the Inspirasi. But yeah, we are going to share actually what we work here in Indonesia. So here are the key points that several topics that I would like to share, and I hope they fit within the time allocated, 10 minutes to 15 minutes. First, what's actually the WBPU? WBPU stands for Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul. It's a non-profit foundation dedicated to accelerating equitable education in Indonesia. In 2022, we established a partnership with STAR Education, an organization with global experience in motivating education systems in the global south. So this partnership focuses on rekindling intrinsic motivation in a drive that makes teachers teach in passion, students learn with curiosity, and school leaders lead with purpose. So our visions actually is a work of educations where teachers love learning and teachers love teaching and children love learning. Where we work now, we began our program in 2022. We started in two districts in East Java, in Lumajang and also in Kota Kediri, Lumajang district and Kediri city. And now we have expand our areas to 6 districts and cities across 3 provinces, East Java, West Java, and East Nusa Tenggara. We have reached more than 25,000 teachers, almost 3,000 schools and 480 students. So this number reflects a massive network of teachers and students engaged in building cultures of continuous learning. But more importantly, behind every number is a story of transformation. A teacher who finds a new joy of learning, or a student who begins to believe in their potentials and love learnings. So let me begin with talk with related to the working with the system, partnership with the districts and or city government. STAR program is quite extensive. It doesn't operate in isolations or only at the school level. It works within the education system, as Patria said earlier. So we're collaborating with every key stakeholders in education offices, district education offices, schools, professors, principals, and teachers. So this multi-layers collaborations is what make the program actually strong. So instead of we introducing an external model, so we work through existing government structure, aligning with their priorities, policies, and even the reporting system. We also recognize a very important reality that partnership with organization third parties will not last forever. Funding cycles and staff may change, and new initiative will emerge. So that's why from the very beginning, we design the program with the sustainability and ownership at its core from the district education agency, from the system. So the ultimate goal is for the local government, especially the district government, city government, and also their education office to take ownership of the program. So this means that the local leaders championing the approach and then integrating into their annual plans and allocating a local budget to keep it going. So our role at STAR is not to run the system, but to empower the systems to run itself better. So because we believe that real change in education doesn't come from the external interventions, it comes from the system itself. So in short, our partnership with local government and also district education agency is not also a formality. So they are actually a foundation for creating lasting, scalable impact across education system. So this is how we formulate the partnership process. It's really technical actually, but one of the biggest lesson we've learned is that true ownership and buy-in happens only when the local government and district education agency generally own the program, both in practice and also in investment. So as I said earlier, our approach is not to build a parallel structure, but to work within the existing education system. We call STAR program as an organic model, so it grows naturally through collaboration, not through external incentive or rewards. So in fact, that there are no financial incentives at all on our program for the participants or even for the stakeholders, official who attend the institutes or the activities. So no incentive at all. So and that's really important to be discussed earlier before the implementation. So therefore, number two is really crucial. So we have the program audience meeting with the potential partners of local government and discuss expectation. So because like communicate truthfully from the start, and also discuss expectations is really important. And we very clear from the beginning that this program will bring new ways of learning, collaboration, and leadership. And that's actually what Hannes' expectations will build trust between two parties, the government and also the two parties. So next, on the stakeholders that we work on the STIR program. So to make meaningful and lasting change in education, we believe that we need the entire systems to move, not just individual schools or teacher. So that's why it's really important for us to bring together all key stakeholders within the education ecosystem. Of course, each with a clear and interconnected role to play. So principal and school supervisors are actually truly the heart of the program because they implement the program into action. So in every activity, school supervisors, pengawas, and also principals serve as both leaders and also learners. And they actually aim to create safe spaces for collaboration and encourage cultures of openness and continuous improvement. So we start from the district education agency. We work with the school supervisor, principals, and that's actually the heart of our program. And hopefully, the school supervisor, principals, they will role model and they will transfer, they will disseminate it to the teachers. So every stakeholders in the ecosystem, starting from the education agency to the teachers, and at the end to the students, is aligned toward one common goal, which is helping students become motivated, confident, and a lifelong learner. So that's actually what what we do, and this is actually the stakeholders involved in the implementation of the SEARCH program. One of the thing, and this is actually our learnings on the approach to the education agency, for instance, the officials, is that sometimes we need to approach all of the key persons there. So we not rely on the head of education agency, for instance, because we need to also engage with the middle or even lower managers, leaders in the district education agency. Because of the, sometimes structures change, political, like in the district. So therefore, we need to keep the momentum by we engaging not only a particular key persons, but also all of the officials or the important key stakeholders who actually are there in the system. This is what we do in terms of what actually, the program implementation. So we have what we call with the learning improvement cycle is actually heart of how STAR program creates lasting change in school. Its cycle runs for about 5 to 6 months, and it's designed to create a rhythm of continuous learning and reflection for teachers, principal, school supervisors, and education officials. So we start our implementation, our activities with the DC Bootcamp. So is actually where the district level leaders, often the coordinators of the school supervisors, gather to align their understanding of the program, build facilitation skills, and plan how to support school leaders, teachers throughout the cycle. So district champions is actually mostly they are school supervisors, coordinators of school supervisors, and also a representative from the district education agency. And after that, we hold what we call it with the school supervisors institutes. So this is organic. We're not creating another activities outside of the system. So we actually doing the school supervisors institutes on their regular KKPS. So there's a school supervisors working group, and they have a routine. They have a regular meeting session. So instead of we have another activities, we go there, of course, with their willingness, because we have a commitment at first, right? So we have school supervisor institutes, and then we have the school principal institutes, teacher ad hoc meetings, classroom observation, and district coordinators meeting. This is really important. We have the coordinators meeting because this is where we actually share, learning challenge from one cycles. So what unique about all of the activities actually that they are not led by outside trainers, right? So they are peer driven and system owned. So supervisors and principal facilitate, organize, mentor, and support the teacher network meetings, and teachers collaborate on the TNM activities. So this create a culture of shared learning, role modeling from the district champions to the teachers, and of course that the accountability across all levels. And related to the content, so our content for the learning improvement cycle is actually designed to a co-design process that ensures it's truly respond to the needs of our partners and also participants. So every piece of content in our LIC is not only about learning, but also rooted in evidence and local needs. So we did some kind of need assessment, what actually the teachers need to be discussed, to be actually put on the LIC. So that's actually what we do, making the process both collaborative and also responsive. So key findings. So our program is still new. We start our program in 2022. And last year, we actually did our impact of evaluation with external party. So after several of a cycle of implementations in all the districts, which is in Lumajang and also in Kota Kediri, we conducted a comprehensive impact evaluations. The aim is to understand how actually our program was changing the classroom and communities, and this is actually really important that working through system takes times. Building ownership and sustainability isn't instant. It requires patient trust and also partnership. But the key finding from the impact evaluation show actually a positive. So while probably external program can move faster, our goal is to make the change last at least. So the key findings from the impact evaluations, there's increase of literacy outcomes, And then there's an instance of teachers' motivation and professional practice. So it's so by consistent evidence of strength and motivation and collaboration across district. And also another important thing is that there's a better student relationship and support seeking. Uh, on our impact calculations, we do the control and treatment. So it's a quasi experimental methods. So we actually compare the treatment and also the control district. And the result is that there's a stronger peer relationship, 42.3% in the treatment, which is in our areas, compared to other areas. And also increase help seekers seeking behavior from our areas, which is our implementations compared to other areas. And there's a social return on investment as well. So we generate 6.85 of social value generated from every one pounds invested. So that means better outcome for teachers, students, and communities at the cost level rate. So this actually on how actually our program works. We work with the system. It takes time, and each district may be different progress, but it's so actually findings that even that with the slower progress, the slower pace, there's an increase
Mm.
of learning outcomes from the students. And the next phase, this is my last part. The next phase is actually the phase two. So we divided the next phase into two. So the scaling out. So we will expanding our evidence-based program to another locations, another districts to generate evidence. So we aim to add more districts in East Java, Central Java, and also East Nusa Tenggara. And of course, more beneficiaries, teachers, and children reached by this program.
Mm.
And also the scaling deep, lasting change in values, relationship, and cultures. So we actually aim to, in order that children improving their social emotional skill, strong relationship in and collaborations among students, peer learning, coaching, and feedback are embedded in the program, and focus on values, trust, and culture change, not just numbers. So this from Sir, we are at the early phase. We're still on the first phase, but of course we learn from as Patria said that I was in Inspirasi. I learned on what actually happened, in other uh, implementing organizations, and this is actually an opportunity where we learn also from the Central Leman in Brazil. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, over to you, Patria.
Okay. Thank you, Mas Yoni. I know there's like a lot to unpack here. I know. And I myself have a lot of questions, but I must restrain myself and probably allow the audience if he wants to ask. If you want to ask the questions, please just unmute yourself. But while we're waiting for that, Rita and Yuni, there are one questions already through the link that were provided there from I think it's from Ibu Sri. Um, it's pretty straightforward questions, but the answer, I believe it's never straightforward. So just try your best, guys. So her question is, okay, so how the systemic approach, I should say, can be adapted in Indonesia or Southeast Asia situation. But I know probably Yoni already explained a little bit about his organizations, but I'm just saying how such approach that Rita tried in Centro Leman and Yoni tried in STIR can be adapted. I'll adjust the questions a little bit. So how the systemic approach can be adapted by other um, I should say like other organizations that are interested in doing this rather systemic approach. So how can they adapt this, guys? If they say, okay, sold, I want to do what you guys do, how to do that? Where to start? I don't know. Well, who wants to start first? Rita.
I can maybe start because Yoni will
Okay.
probably have more concrete examples. But I just like to highlight what Yoni presented. Stir's approach is very good, in terms of having this formal agreement with the governments and keep starting this with this high level agreement.
Yeah.
And then I'd say just, try to understand what is important in each context to to build this political will and this political commitment, because these might vary a little bit. So what motivates a mayor in Brazil, it's different probably from your context in some level. In others it will be very similar. So you want to be re-elected, or you want to be more recognized nationally, and if you have good educational results, it will help you in this sense. So I think that's what we're trying to show them. If you work towards getting better results in education, it will also help your political career in a way, besides helping children, which should be the most important thing. But if it's not, in Brazil, it will also bring funds, for example, for your municipality. So it's good for you as a political leader in many senses. So if you can, map these and adapt these, I think that's a very important way.
Right. So basically meet them where they are, right? Political leaders wants political gains. So instead of just focusing on the learning gains, probably might worth taken to state that it is also benefiting them politically. Do you want to add on that, Yon? Let's say if any
Yeah,
other organization wants to copy what you guys do, what should they brace
yeah.
themselves first?
Yeah, this is from our learning actually related to the principle for adopting a systemic approach. For me, is that it's really important to build ownership at every level. So engage with the district education agencies, even the regions, the mayor, the policymakers within the educations, and also the school supervisors, principals, teachers, who actually work directly in the fields. And what we did actually in our program implementations in Lumajang and Kediri, we have what we call with the co-design activities. So there's champions not only not only the school supervisors, not only principals, but also the teachers who actually involve on that the co-designs activities, the co-designs team, what we call, and that's actually become a key champions, key persons that even the district education agency, make them a leader, to lead actually the program. So build ownership at every level. And the next is, of course, work through existing government structure. Uh, you know that we are decentralized, and our evidence is actually from the primary school, right? So means that, of course, we work with the district education agency, not with the provincial level, right?
Right.
So the policies change in the national level, but it's different, in the district level. So therefore, like we work through existing government structures, and we actually do a program through what actually uh, already established there, like the KKG, learning communities,
Existing government
schools.
structures. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
Okay.
that's that. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Thanks for that. And I use my privilege as a moderator here because I think this is important. I saw some of the audience here, uh, if not most of them, are working in organizations where they also have responsibilities to the funders, right? Be it the donors or whatever funders that you are working with. So appreciating all the things that you just mentioned, right? Both Rita and Yoni, that there are challenges, unique challenges when you're working with system, right? One is that the time. right? It's probably longer to have the results that you want, right? It's a good thing that Yoni mentioned that, finally, Yoni's program results positively, but we can also, expect that sometimes it doesn't work, right? So there are this level of more uncertainty, right? Because you have less of a control than if you are doing the training yourself. So my question is, how do you, how did you, at the early stage, right, when you embark on this journey, how did you communicate this to those who give funds to you and justify that, hey, there are some uncertainties related to this approach? Because sometimes funders want like, concrete results soon as possible, right? So how did you communicate that?
Yoni, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you. So
Sorry,
luckily,
Yon.
yeah. So yeah, we are actually on early phase, Mas Patria, but we are actually lucky to have funders, donors that understand our works. Actually,
Mm,
the system moves slowly. There's uncertainty. Success is not linear, so they understands that, and therefore, like at the beginning, they really interest actually to see how actually this programs works. And they also understand that in enhancing or intrinsic motivations is not something that easy. It's
mm,
really abstract, right?
correct.
So that's that. But yeah, so probably our program is not really, you know, cannot be sell like to donors who have, a preference to get results like in a shorter time, right?
Mm,
So, but luckily we have the donors who actually understand our works so far. But yeah.
right. This could be,
Yes,
yeah.
we also had funders who believed in that, and I think this argument of the potential of a systemic impact being, larger and more sustainable
Mm,
than a direct impact, this is very
right.
strong.
Yeah.
And also, I think there are, even though it might take longer to see the final result or it's more indirect, but the quick results that you can show, they are very powerful and very visible, right? For example, they already have this framework. So this is something that makes the news, Or when we
Mm,
bring all the mayors together, 30
yeah.
mayors from the larger cities in Brazil, committing to education, and this is huge.
Yeah.
All of the mayors publish on their social networks and things like. So the funders like, wow,
Mm,
we're making a difference, even though okay, the children results will improve in a few years from now, but we're there. So I think it's this is an attractive side also to
to the
this
funders, right?
approach.
A
Yes, for the funders.
different kind of attraction,
Exactly.
for them to respond. Okay, we have got questions from Dia, which I believe joining from other countries in this sense. So she's asking, how do both of your program choose the project location? Or choose the participants, right? In that sense, what's indicator you use? At the principals level, willingness to join the program is one of the factors, right? It's not only principals, actually the region, right? As Yoni mentioned, the willingness of the regions to participate in the program is actually one of the factors. So how do you choose the project participants in this approach, guys? The specific criteria?
For us, we wanted to have this cohort of the largest cities in Brazil. So we
Mm.
mapped out like 44 largest cities, and we knew we
Okay.
had 30 slots, right? We could work
Okay.
with 30 of them. So we went to the 44, and with
Mm.
help also from other partners who, had personal relations or could,
Mm.
help open the doors for us to present the program. And from those 44, we got 30 who were willing to participate and who wanted to engage. So it was a mix of, wanting, and we wanted to have this diversity all over Brazil. So those 44 represented the different regions of Brazil. And then we also have the second cohort with smaller cities in the south of Brazil who are very much affected by a large flood we had here last year. And so the high vulnerability. So we wanted to have a cohort also with vulnerable municipalities. And we also presented to, I don't know, I think it was like 15 and we had 10 slots. So it's like we direct our approach, and we are now for the next cohort, we have some indication from the donors as well. That's important. For example, we have a funder who wants to focus on the north of Brazil, on one specific state in the north of Brazil. So we're gonna go there, and so that helps us find the location.
Okay.
And we don't work anymore directly with the school leaders, so we don't have this
Right,
anymore.
right. So just to follow up, were there any case where, with your approach, the either the political leaders, basically the region, chose, probably this is not for us?
Yes, we had some of them, and for different reasons. For example, one of them, like I mentioned, one of the risks was that this NGO partnering with the government, sometimes it's not well seen, right? So one of them said, if I do this, the teachers union will fall down on top of it, and probably they will go on strike, and I can't risk this right now. So they opted to not. Or others said, I'm just starting my mandate and I need to focus on other things. I can't, have this systemic approach right now. I have more specific priorities, and I won't join for now. So there are different reasons, but and of course we had also some the institutional capacity was so fragmented they couldn't even start the program. Mayors already changed, were arrested for corruption. Then the other came and was also had to go out of office because of something else.
Sounds too familiar.
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay. Yoni, do you want to add for your experience in choosing location for your project?
The key indicators fosters in choose project locations or programs areas. First, of course, the government commitment, because we work with the systems, right? So the local education office, district government, city government show a strong leadership and willingness to call on the program. And then capacity to implement. So whether they are active supervisors, principals, existing routines to support continuous learning. And we also involved in the discussions with the Ministry of Education, for instance, because we have MOU with them. So we actually hear their preference, even that that's not mandatory, right? And we also hear like the donor preference. So for instance, in East Nusa Tenggara, so that's actually why we scale out to East Nusa Tenggara. One of the things that's really interest for the donors. Yeah.
Right. Yep. So it has its own intricacies. Okay. So we have Mbak Nisa here asking from PSPK, specifically to Rita. So it'll be great to have the whole system support a change. There is one policy that you think key to your effort for the betterment of the education of the regions that you're working with. What would that be? And she asks, what's the most counterproductive policy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I want to answer two things for the first one. I think in terms of the whole education system, of course, national assessment is very important because you need data and evidence. And my answer depends a little bit on national assessments because it depends on data. But what our national government now did in terms of funding, the structure of the funding for basic education is put an equity component in it. So you receive more money if you reduce inequality between schools. So that's a drive, actually not between schools, sorry, but between students. So and they consider and they consider specific different race groups. So white students and non-white students, and also income. So high income students and low income students. If the gap between the results, the learning results between those groups reduces, the municipality will receive more money from the national government. So
Oh, this
that's
is municipality transfers,
yes, the
the
national government
municipality level.
transfers to the municipality level,
Okay.
and they will get
Okay.
more if they promote more equity.
I
So that's
see.
a very important driver to promote equity, right? But it depends on the data, because you need how
Right.
will you know if the gap is reducing?
Yeah.
Because we have national assessments and they use this to track. But also in terms of the specific policies for the school leadership, which is I think our focus here, I'd say the support that the Department of Education gives to the school leaders needs to be equity based as well. So the Department of Education needs to look at its schools, considering this, which are the schools that need more help, that are falling behind. So these schools I will visit more often, and I will have an improvement plan co-created with the principal. And if needed, in the end of the day, I'll have to replace this principal, or I'll have to, better help him professionally develop. So I think this lens of equity is something very important when you plan all the policies, but especially the support policy. And the counterproductive, I'd say, strategies of rewarding the better students, the best students, or the best schools. Because you tend to reward the ones who are already good, instead
Right.
of getting the ones who need support to
Yeah.
actually improve. You're just, rewarding, and normally are the ones which already had
Which are already
better
good.
conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
I
Mbak
think
Nisa
that's
had
very
a follow-up.
counterproductive.
Mbak Nisa had followed-up questions. We do actually here have what we call a BOS kinerja. That's like a direct government transfer to school. And to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, ya Mbak Nisa, that BOS kinerja is actually incentivizing for the best performing school. So exactly what Rita was mentioning, the counterproductive
So it
one.
increases inequality instead of decreasing it.
Works the
Yeah.
other way around. Okay, that's an interesting point. Um, all right, so my time is already almost 6:30 p.m. So I know I'm stealing too much of your time. I guess we should wrap it up just for now. I believe this could be the first of many. Hopefully, this is not the last one. So again, let me just wrap it for today. So again, thanks so much, Rita from Lehman Center and Yoni from YBPU, for the very very insightful session. We should have been have this like longer. And also thank everyone who's joining today. I know, as I mentioned, this is not the most convenient time for everyone. On behalf of me as a moderator and from Inspirasi, also I'd like to extend our big thanks for the organizers, the PFI, the Perhimpunan Filantropi Indonesia, for organizing this learning session and for continuing to provide spaces such as this, who wouldn't have happened otherwise, right? So again, thank you so much, everyone. So have a wonderful evening for those in Indonesia and the great rest of the day and the upcoming weekend for those joining in Brazil. So selamat sore. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you,
Okay, thank
Patria.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, before
Thank
we
you.
wrap up the
Sure.
event,
Oh, photo, is it?
let's take a moment to
Okay,
a
okay, okay.
memorable
Okay.
event together. Okay, it's a
Because
mandatory documentation, right?
sure,
Okay.
sure, sure. Okay.
We invite everyone to open up the camera and
Okay.
keep your big smile, please.
Okay.
Wait
Some
a
already
minute.
left.
Let's
Sorry, sorry.
see. The other participants are
Okay.
still there, are still here. Okay. Okay, it's
Halo Mbak Nisa.
okay. Okay, I'm
Dan?
counting in to three, two, one. Big smile. Okay,
Thank
another
you.
pose maybe.
Another pose?
Okay. In three, two, one. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you everyone. We hope today's discussion has
Thank you.
inspired us all. And thank you to Central Leman, Inspirasi Foundation, Yayasan Bakti Pendidikan Unggul and STIR Education. On behalf of Filantropi Indonesia, thank you for your attention and participants. See you at the next Philanthropy Indonesia event. Okay. See you everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
you.
weekend,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
Thank
you,
good
you.
day.
Rita.
Thank
Bye,
you. Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.
Dadah. Dadah, Mas. Thank you.
Deh.